Hi, this is Ellie Gettinger, Education Director at Jewish Museum Milwaukee with our Conversation Starter series. Today I am joined by Susan Lubar, who is the president and founder of Growing Minds. Conversation Starters is an opportunity for us to connect with people throughout the community in this time of social distancing and to get a sense of what people are experiencing, a sense of the kind of broader happenings in Milwaukee, and to get real insight from some thought leaders in our community. Susan Lubar is, as I said, the president and founder of Growing Minds, and their mission is to empower educators and youths of all professions and all professionals to feel more positive, intentional, and less reactive and negative, which I think right now is so important as we are all in these closed quarters or, feeling kind of isolated. Susan has been a pioneer in bringing social and emotional strategies to the Milwaukee area for the benefit of our community. Through Growing Minds, she has partnered with organizations including Milwaukee Public Schools, Northwestern Mutual, Medical College of Wisconsin, Lutheran Social Services, MATC, and UW-Milwaukee. Today, we're going to explore mindful practice and get a sense of how Susan got into this field, and then also look a little bit at Passover as we're in that season. So Susan, can we start out by talking about how Growing Minds started and how you got involved with mindful practice?
Absolutely. It's nice to be here, Ellie. I started Growing Minds 11 years ago, but my search for managing my emotional well-being, my nervous system really began 30 or 40 years ago, at least. And I didn't really even know what I was looking for, Ellie. At the time, I just knew that my body and my mind were agitated all the time. And in those days when remote controls were much harder to operate, I remember my remote control being able to drive me crazy. And I just thought, I can't let this thing have that much control over me. So I really began a deep dive into all things alternative. The things that have helped me the most has been yoga. I became a certified yoga instructor, and that really helped me just focus my attention, so at least I knew what I was paying attention to. And then of course it calmed my body down because there was so much exercise there, burning off all those stress hormones. I started meditating, and the person that influenced me the most there was Deepak Chopra. Mm-hmm. With him, I learned how to just sit over a long period of time, and that helped me manage my mind so that my mind wasn't just going wherever it wanted to. Ultimately, I learned about mindfulness, and what I really loved about it was it brought me back into my body rather than sort of escaping it through various other coping mechanisms. And it really was that practice, because it was so pedestrian. Anyone could do it. Anyone could spell it. It didn't seem like a cult. And it was really mindfulness that helped me manage myself. So Growing Minds evolved out of my expertise in yoga and then my mindfulness practice. I actually began by teaching yoga with a team of 12 instructors at one Milwaukee Public School. And we provided every student with yoga twice a week for 2 solid years. And
what were the things that they noticed about? Were there kind of anecdotal or evidence-based kind of supports that came out of that kind of intensive practice over that amount of time?
What we realized was that, and this was after we transitioned from yoga to mindfulness in the classroom with the students and the teacher, what was fascinating was to learn that from the teachers' feedback, that the teachers who believed that they could learn to manage their emotions, they believed their students would also then be able to manage their emotions. In other words, they recognized that managing emotions, being aware, developing insight was a skill. It wasn't something you were born with. And it could be learned with practice, just like learning the ABCs or your
It
math
puts them
class.
on the same team then. Hey, we're all learning this skill together.
And that was also the challenge, Ellie, because for teachers to open that vulnerability
Mhm.
of themselves in front of their students, some teachers are better at that than others.
How can you explain kind of mindfulness broadly and how it benefits people?
So mindfulness has become very, very popular. And so it's important to really understand that mindfulness is that ability of developing your awareness by actively pausing and slowing down to see what's happening in your own mind and body and around the world and those that you interact with. So it's an intentional way of taking perspective and being reflective rather than noticing things the way that we usually do. So without being mindful, we generally react and we can react in beneficial and unbeneficial ways, but it's usually based on prior experience, not what's actually happening in this moment. And so without slowing down to pause, we're going to assume that this situation is the same as it was the last several or 100 times, and without opening up space for the possibility that there can be some change or modification in our behavior or in others. So mindfulness,
Sorry.
I was just going to end, Ellie, by saying that mindfulness is this relational process. You have to harness your nervous system and create a relationship with yourself and your mind so that you understand the patterns that it goes through and how it's perceiving particular environments and what's triggering you and hijacking your behavior or your perspective.
So, and before we jump into our kind of Passover piece, just as you are kind of seeing everyone in these kind of very different places where time is not, doesn't mean the same, and we're in this kind of different sense of self and work and home and all of those things, how are you seeing people utilize mindful practice? And do you have any kind of prescriptions for what that looks like right now?
That's a really great question. And I think the number one way that mindfulness can be implemented here for anyone without any experience is to look at the silver lining of this physical distancing and the stay-at-home requirements. So, for example, and what I mean by silver lining is what is unexpected? What's coming out of this whole situation that you never could have fathomed? So I'll give you an example for myself. My son, who's 31, and his girlfriend, Kiera, are home and from New York City. And how unusual is it for someone's 31-year-old child and their girlfriend to come home? So I had this unique opportunity to spend probably 45 or 60 days with them and get to know both of them on this really special basis and cooking together, walking together. We've been building some fires outside together, just laughing, watching TV shows. And this would never have happened.
Right. Because we're all
Without
too busy.
exactly. And I'm sure everybody has things this big, but even much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I think that sense of coming together and really seeing my kids as learners, like that is been really interesting to see what they're excited about. My younger daughter, we had time to teach her how to ride a bike, you know, and it's not something that we've made time, but now there's time in a different way. And I think that's definitely a value.
That's beautiful.
So as this is the season, we're about to embark on our Passover Seders. And Passover in general is one of these pieces that families come together. Everyone's feeling a little bit challenged, I would say, this year about how you run a Seder via Zoom. who's making the matzo ball soup? Do you make a matzo ball soup if there are only 4 people in a house? Or, all of these big questions, and and Passover already is one of those triggers, I think, for many people in getting anxious and kind of overwhelmed. So I kind of wanted to ask you, can you bring us through any connection through mindfulness and Passover and our Seders?
The way I'm looking at Passover this year is in a sense in the context of that silver lining, but a little bit deeper than that. Passover is that time where we're supposed to look at challenges or difficulties, the suffering of the slaves. And we're not asked to explain why were the slaves, why were the Jews suffering. In our situation now, we're not asking ourselves, why are we suffering? But really what we're asked to do is find meaning, find that miracle, find that how can we manifest our joy or our happiness in spite of these constrictions and these limitations. And so I think, what would be really interesting and what I'm hoping to do for our tiny Seder is to look at this. What happened to the Jews? What were their limitations? What did they do to find a miracle, to create some joy and happiness for themselves in the midst of these limitations? So there's a lot of ability to find purpose and meaning. And I think on a grand scale in the COVID-19, the way to pull that in would be through our interconnectedness. There's no boundaries geographically, ethnically, financially. We're all interconnected through this. People are being so generous by staying home and protecting those around them that are more vulnerable. The people that are out there working, doing just in the grocery stores, the hospitals, everywhere, to appreciate and have gratitude for what's happening around us. So I think Passover this year could be related to the COVID-19 crisis and really as a similar way of finding this miracle and meaning in the midst of the chaos.
Yeah. I think that gives it a very different resonance than, instead of asking why is this night different than all other nights, it really is why is this year different than all other years? How do we take this kind of practice that becomes not rote, but very internalized? How do we even expand that and make it different because it is a different time?
Love that.
Do you want to take us through kind of a short practice to show us how mindfulness can be kind of in a daily sort of in a life or in Passover, either way? What's your...
Absolutely. I think a practice that would be really meaningful would be a compassion practice. Okay. And what I mean by compassion is we're focusing our attention, but we're bringing this kind, loving attention to ourselves or to others, rather than just noticing something. I really want to bring that warmth, that quality of warmth, because of all the challenges that we're going through right now. And it's not that we can't overcome these challenges, but they're new challenges and they're different. Okay, so how about a 2-minute practice?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so let's get started by doing a practice called giving and receiving. So we're going to give and receive compassion through our breath. And if you like, you can start by placing a hand over your heart, or just as a reminder to bring this affectionate awareness to ourselves. And then finding yourself in a posture where your body is comfortable and you feel well supported for the length of the practice. I might just close my eyes too. Okay. And close your eyes if you do feel comfortable, and if not, just looking down. So begin to notice your breathing in your body. and feeling your body breathing in and breathing out. So notice how your body can feel nourished as it breathes in, and then how it can relax and let go as the breath moves out. So there's this natural flowing of the breath moving in and the breath moving out. And as you bring this intentional awareness to your breath, see if you can bring your attention to yourself as though you're like a little puppy or a small child. So there's that gentle affection and warmth for yourself. So there's that nourishing affection as you breathe in, and then that relaxation or letting go of the muscles as you breathe out. And now for a moment, mainly focus on the in-breath and letting yourself really feel that in-breath, that intaking of nourishment for your whole body. The air feeds your body. And as you breathe in a quality of warmth or compassion, kindness, or patience for yourself. Maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's a word. And now shifting your attention to the out breath and feeling that ease of breathing out, that letting go. And as you breathe out, think of someone who you love or someone who's struggling and needs compassion. And clearly visualize that person, and as you breathe out, focus all that affection and compassion and love for that person. And now if you want, you can breathe in for yourself and out for that person. So it would be in for me and out for you. One for me and one for you. Breathing in and out affection or compassion or love. Something good. Just letting the breath be like that lake or ocean wave coming in and going out. An ocean of compassion. And when you're ready, letting go of the breath and just taking a moment to be with yourself, to notice the experience and how it made you feel, if anything. When you're ready, opening your eyes.
Wow. It's an interesting feeling to jump back into the world of like Zoom and interview when you've kind of released everything.
It is. So did you notice a shift, Ellie?
Oh, I did. I felt like, and there is a low hum in my room, which I think was also helping me get into that kind of, because it was almost like a pulse for my breathing,
Yes.
but it was really just in all of the craziness and being in the middle of a work day with all of the crazy things. It was like just a time to decompress and really focus. And it felt really lovely. And strangely, I know I'm being recorded and I didn't feel that I could release and just be a part of my breathing and, just in this calm position. It was really delightful. I encourage everyone to do that at home.
Yes.
Um,
And you can do that anytime, anywhere. Just bring that kind, gentle, loving affection towards yourself as you do towards other people all day long.
in terms, just as we're wrapping up here, in thinking about mindfulness in the Seder, I can certainly see how that becomes your process of saying Hallel or Baruch at the end of a Seder, that you can, instead of having the challenge of trying to sing together, which on Zoom is a bit of a disaster, um, that having a moment of saying, okay, we're all going to breathe together, that could be a really powerful addition to a Seder in this 2020 landscape. Are there any other kinds of ways in which that you see mindful practice being engaged in a Passover Seder setting?
Well, I think in addition to the silver lining, you could just talk about what you're grateful for in your life, what you've noticed, and go around the table and share that. I was thinking of finishing our Seder with talking about the concept of bait or house, and that that how important our homes are today. We're spending so much time in our home, and just how much we actually have. It is a form of gratitude. I think the letter bait, I'm not a real expert in any of this, but I know the Torah begins with that letter bait, and it stands for the concept of bait and all that home means. And maybe to go around the table and just share, what does home mean to me? And let each person share that.
I think that's lovely. Um, I appreciate, and one of the things as we're wrapping up is that you shared with us a number of mindful practices, some easy ways of engaging mindful practice in your life that we'll share via our website and via links. But are there any great resources that you see out in the universe right now that you're like, ooh, if you're looking for one great place to check out mindful practice, Growing Minds, what are you guys offering online? What are some other kind of great resources right now?
Okay. So starting this Thursday, twice a week, we're going to offer free meditations, one around lunchtime and one around 4 o'clock. But if you Google any of anything like free meditations, there's so much out there. And most of it's free. I can recommend the Healthy Minds app called HM. And it's really, Dr. Richard Davidson's in our backyard in Madison. It's a fabulous and free app. Insight Meditation is free. And, but there's so many live talks on 10% Happier podcasts. And you can just Google those to find out who the best people in the country are giving everything away for free.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that is one of the things that is really a silver lining of this piece, is that because we're all in this together, we're all looking at ways that we can support each other. And just the fact that these resources, which sometimes are paid, are available for free, that's a huge benefit.
Yeah. On our website, we have a PDF where you can download things to do in your own house, which is simply calling somebody who might be alone, That might be a way of connecting and being mindful of those who are less fortunate. And we have a list of over a dozen ways that you can just bring attention to your behavior in very informal ways without sitting and doing a breathing practice.
Well, this has been delightful. I feel like now I'm in a much more even keel for the rest of my day. So thank you.
That's awesome.
And thank you all for joining us for Conversation Starters. If you're interested in more stuff on Jewish Museum, check out our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube. And if you love us, we always love a donation. Thanks very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Ellie.